Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to create a simple card game called Blackjack. And the rule of the game is fairly simple. You are given 2 cards to start with, while the dealer is also given 2 cards, except one of the cards is hidden, and the dealer must draw until they have at least a sum of 17. So if you don't know how the sums work, basically any number card is worth its value. So a 2 is worth 2 points, 3 is worth 3 points, 10 is 10 points. Jack, Queen, and King, the face cards, are worth 10 points each. And Ace can be 1 or 11, so this is your choice. So the goal is to get a score higher than your opponent without exceeding 21. So if you exceed 21, you automatically lose regardless of what the dealer has. And if the dealer exceeds 21 and you don't, you win. And if neither of you exceed 21, then whoever has the higher score wins. Or if you both have the same score, you tie. So that's basically the rule of the game. So what you see here is the final result of this tutorial. And you can see the dealer has 10 and Queen, which is 10. So the dealer has at least 20, while you have an Ace and a 2. So this could be 13, which is 11 plus 2, or it could be 3. Now you could decide to stay, which means this is what you want in your hand, you don't want to draw anymore, or you can hit. Hit basically adds another card. So if I click on this, you can see we have another 2. So this is equal to 5 or 15. I can hit again. And this is Jack, so this is 10. So if Ace were 11, this would be 11 plus 2 plus 2 plus 10, which is 25, which exceeds 21. So in this case, we can say Ace is 1 then. So that would make it 15. So I can hit again, and you can see I have a 7. So in this case, 15 plus 7 is 22. So it exceeds 21. So I can't hit anymore. So I have to stay. And even though we both, me and the dealer, we both have a number exceeding 21, because I exceeded 21, it doesn't matter what the dealer has, I automatically lose. So that's where the dealer has an advantage. Yeah, so if I refresh, you can see I have 20, and if I stay, then I win, because the dealer greater than 21, so that's a bust. Alright, so now that you know how the game works, let's start coding this game. So in the video description, you will find a GitHub link. Simply download the repo in that link. And when you open up the folder, there will be a cards folder containing all the images that you will need for the game. Now, each image has a name that is the value and the type. So here we have 2C, 2D, 2H, 2S. This stands for 2 of clubs, 2 of diamonds, 2 of hearts, and 2 of spades. And I have the entire deck. I even have the Joker cards, which we won't be using, but it's there. The Joker cards are there in case you want to make your own card game with these assets. And we have the back of the card. So yeah, just download the GitHub link and get the cards folder and just place it in your own project folder. And let's continue on with the tutorial. Alright, so here I have my Visual Studio Code. And before we begin, I just want to mention that I am working on a web projects tutorial series where I create fun projects, usually game projects, using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I release videos on a weekly basis. So if this is something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. And also check out the other videos on my channel. I have tutorials on Candy Crush, Sudoku, 2048, Wordle, and many more to come. So yeah, if that is something you're interested in, please consider subscribing. So after getting the cards folder from the GitHub repo, just copy and paste the folder into your own directory and just create 3 files: index.html, blackjack.css, and blackjack.js. Let's start with the HTML. So doc type, HTML, and then let's start with the head. So pretty standard stuff: meta car set, UTF-8, meta name equals viewport, content equals width equals device width, initial scale is 1.0, And let's give a title to our web page. So I'm going to call it Blackjack. And let's link our style sheet and our JavaScript. Style sheet blackjack.css. And then for our JavaScript, alright, so that's it for the head. Now let's start working on our body. So for our body, let's add a header. So this will be dealer, and we're going to have a span with an ID of dealer sum. And this is going to be empty for now, but we're going to use JavaScript later. When the user clicks the stay button, it's going to populate what the dealer sum is. Now let's add a div with an ID of dealer cards. So in this div, we're going to put a bunch of image tags, and those image tags are basically each card. And then we're going to do the same for the player yourself. So we're going to have another header, you, and we're going to have a span with an ID of your sum. And again, this is going to be empty, and we're going to use JavaScript to populate this. And then we're going to have a div with the ID of your cards. And then after that, let's add a break line, and let's add a button with an ID of hit. And the text will say hit for the button. And we're going to create another button and give it an ID of stay, and the text will be stay. And then finally, let's add a paragraph tag with an ID of results. So it's going to be empty for now, but after the user clicks the stay button, it's going to display a message saying whether the player has won or not, or whether there's a tie. So this will happen at the end of the round. Alright, so now if you go into your folder, just double click on index.html, and you can see this is what we have so far. So currently we don't have any cards, and we're going to add some styling so that everything is centered, and we'll make the buttons bigger. But basically, if I were to add cards right now, which we're going to use JavaScript for, but if I were to add a card, it would be an image tag. So let's say I add a card, and that is going to be /cards, which is the folder name, back.png. And then let's add another one, image source equal. So let's say /cards, and I will select a random one like this one. So if I come back here and I refresh, you can see the cards are very big. So we want to use CSS to make them smaller. Alright, so in our CSS, I'm going to style the body and change the font family to Arial. And I'm going to do text align center. So this will align all the text and images within our web page and place it in the center. Next, let's style the dealer cards. And within here, we're going to style every image tag within dealer cards. So basically, every image tag within dealer cards. So we're going to make the height of each card 175 pixels. And the width 125 pixels. Let's add a margin of 1 pixel so they're not sticking right next to each other. And then we're going to copy and paste this and do the same for your cards. Alright, so when we refresh the page, you can see the cards got smaller. So the card is 175 pixels tall and 125 pixels wide. So for the buttons, I'm going to style the hit button. This will have a width of 100 pixels and a height of 50 pixels and a font size of 20 pixels. And we'll also do the same for the stay button. Okay, so that's all the CSS we need. Alright, so if I refresh this, you can see the buttons got bigger. And now we can work on the JavaScript. So in index.html, I'm going to get rid of this. And actually, I'm going to keep this back image because the dealer will always have one card face down. So I'm going to keep this image and assign it an ID of hidden so that I can get this image tag with this ID and change the value, change the source later. Alright, so for our JavaScript, let's add some global variables. So I'm going to have a dealer sum. So this is going to keep track of the total card's point value for the dealer. And we're going to do the same for your sum. Then I'm going to have a dealer ace count, which is 0, and your ace count. So we're going to use this later, but basically we want to keep track of how many aces the dealer and you have, because let's say you have an ace, which is 11 points, and you add another card, which is 2 points, like this. Then so far you have 11 plus 2. And then if you add a king, which is 10 points, then you exceed 21. But because of the ace, you can subtract 10 and make this a +1. So we want to keep track of how many aces you have so that we can consider how many times we can do -10 so that you are safely below 21. Alright, so let's create a variable for hidden. So this is going to keep track of the hidden card of the dealer. And then we're going to have a deck. And then finally, we're going to have a variable can hit, which is true. So this variable allows the player, which is you, to draw while total sum, or actually while your sum, is less than or equal to 21. Alright, so now when the page loads, so window.onload, we're going to call a function. And the first function is to build the deck. Because you can't play a card game without a deck, so we're going to build a deck. So let's create a function, build deck. And we're going to list out the values. So values are ace, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, and king. So make sure these values are all capitalized because they correspond to the image names. Now we're also going to do the same for the types. So the types are club, so C, D for diamond, H for heart, and S for spade. And then we have our deck. We're going to initialize it to an empty array. And then we're going to use a double for loop to loop through both these arrays. So we're going to do for let I equal 0, I less than types.length, I++. For let j equal 0, j less than values.length, j++. So make sure you're careful with this because the small j looks like the small I. So if you accidentally put an I here, you will get an infinite loop. So we don't want that. So basically what we're going to do in here is deck.push values of j plus the dash plus types of I. So you can see this naming is equivalent to what you see in our card images. So we're going to loop through all the types first. So first we're going to do C, then D, then H, then S. And for each type, we're going to loop through all the values. So within here, we're going to first do ace of clubs, then 2 of clubs, then 3 of clubs, then 4 of clubs, and then 5 of clubs, and so on until you get K of clubs. So it's going to be from AC to KC. And then after that, we're going to have AD to KD, and so on until we have all 52 cards. So over here, let's print out the deck. So I'm going to do console.log deck. So now if I go back to the web page and I refresh and I right click inspect, and I go to console, you can see we have an array of 52 cards. And if I open it, you can see we have AC, 2C, 3C, 4C, and so on, up to KS. So we have all 52 cards. Alright, so now that we built our deck, we need to shuffle it. Because if we don't, then we know the order of the cards, so we can kind of cheat for this game. So we need to shuffle the deck. So we're going to create a function called shuffle deck. So I'm going to define that here. And shuffling is pretty simple, so I'm going to loop through all the cards within the deck. So let I go 0, I less than deck.length, I plus plus. I'm going to take j and get a random index from the deck. So to do that, we're going to do math.floor of math.random times deck.length. So math.random is going to give a number between 0 and 1. And we're going to multiply that by the length of the deck, which is 52, which gives us a number between 0 and 52, but it doesn't include 52. So it's going to be a floating point number between 0 and 51.9999. And then we're going to use math.floor to get rid of the decimal place so that we can get an integer. So now that we have two indices, two positions within the deck, we're going to swap them. So let temp equals deck of I, and deck of I is going to be deck of j, and deck of j is going to be temp. So after that, let's print out our deck. So console.log deck. And then let's comment this one out. Alright, so if I refresh and I right click, inspect, and I go to console, you can see our array here. And you can see the ordering of our cards is scrambled. And if I refresh again, you can see it scrambles up again and again and again. So see it starts at 5S, 5D, 3S. If I refresh, you can see it's random again. Okay? Alright, so now that we have our deck, and we've shuffled it, let's start dealing the cards for the dealer and the player, which is you. So let's go and make a new function. So here, I'm going to make a start game function. And then down here, let's define start game. So we're going to deal to the dealer first. So we're going to do hidden, which is the variable that keeps track of the hidden card. We're going to set it to deck.pop. So pop is going to remove a card from the end of the array. And then we're going to do dealer sum plus equal. We want the value of that card. So I'm going to create a new function called getValue and pass in the card, hidden. Alright, so down here, I'm going to define a function called getValue, and it's going to take a card, and I'm going to get a variable called data, and it's going to be card.split by the dash. So if you remember, the names of each card image is basically the value dash type. So for instance, for C, 4 is the value and C is the type. It is clubs. So by calling split on the dash, we are splitting the values into two parts, 4 and C. So we're going to get an array containing 4 and C. So now all I need is the value. So that's going to be data of index 0. And now we need to check what that value is. So first is not a number, value. This basically means we're checking to see if the value contains digits. And if it does not contain digits, then this will return true because it's not a number. So if it's not a number, we're going to check. If the value is equal to A, which is ace, we're going to return 11. Otherwise, we are returning 10. Because the value, if it's not a number, it could be ace, jack, queen, or king. So ace could be 11 or 1. Jack, queen, and king are all 10. Alright, so after that, if we do not return a value from either of these, that means that we have a number. So in that case, we're just going to return parse int of value. Okay, so if it's not a number, then we're going to check to see what letter it is. So if it's ace, we're going to return 11, and if it's jack, queen, or king, we're going to return 10. Otherwise, we're going to return whatever value the digit is. So in this case, it will return 4. Alright, so back to our start game function. After we have the hidden card, I'm going to also check to see if it's an ace. So I'm going to do dealer ace count plus equal check ace. And we're going to pass in the card as well. So down here, let's define a function called check ace, and it's going to take a card, and if card of 0, which is card is a string, so if the first digit is A, then we're going to return 1, else we return 0. Alright, so back to our start game function. Now that we have our hidden card, let's also print it. So I'm going to print hidden, and then I'm also going to print the sum. So hidden, or actually, oops, dealer sum. So if I refresh this page and I right click inspect and go to console, you can see that the hidden card is 2 of hearts and the dealer sum is 2. If I refresh again, you can see that the dealer has a king of clubs and the value of dealer sum is 10. Alright, so let's go back, and the rule is we need to deal cards for the dealer unless they have a sum greater than or equal to 17. So let's comment this out, and we're going to do while dealer sum is less than 17, we're going to give them another card. So let's do card image equal to document.createElement image. So we're creating an image tag like this, and let's also get a card. So let card equal to deck.pop. We're going to set the card image source to /cards/ so this is the folder name, plus the card, which is the name of the image itself, plus .png, which is the extension. And then we're going to do dealer sum. So similar to over here, we're going to get the value, plus equal get value of card. And we're also going to do dealer ace count, plus equal the value of check ace of card. And then after that, we're going to do document.getElement by D, dealer cards .append card image. Alright, so what did we just do? So this first line over here, we created an image tag, and then we got a card from the deck, and we set the source of the image tag like this to, let's say, card/4-c.png. So we set an image for the tag, and then we incremented the dealer sum and the ace count for the dealer, and then we took that image tag over here and we appended the image tag to this dealer card div. So within the HTML, it's basically doing this. We are appending the cards with the while loop until the dealer has a sum of 17 or greater. Okay? So after that, let's print the dealer sum. Alright, so let's go and check. Alright, so if I refresh this, you can see the dealer has more cards now. So we have 8 plus 5 plus 8, so that's 21. So again, the dealer must draw until they have a sum of 17 or greater. So let's check again. So here they have 13, so what could this card be? We don't know, but if I right click inspect, then we know that the card is probably 4, right? Because the total sum is 17. But yeah, the dealer must draw until they have a hand sum of 17 or higher. So that's their disadvantage. But the advantage is that if you and the dealer have a sum of 22 or greater, basically anything higher than 21, then you're the one who loses instead of the dealer, even though both you and the dealer broke 21. Alright, so now that we gave cards to the dealer, let's also give some cards to yourself. So when you start, you only get 2 cards. So for let I equals 0, I less than 2, I plus plus, we're going to create 2 card images. So let's copy and paste this code. And then I'm going to change dealer sum to your sum. Dealer ace count is going to be your ace count. And dealer cards, this ID, is going to be your cards. Okay? So make sure there are no typos. Okay. And then afterwards, let's print out your sum. Alright, so if I go back and refresh, you can see these are our 2 cards. And now all that's left to do is give me the option to hit, which is to draw another card, or stay, which is to stay with my current hand. And you can see our current sum is 11. And if I right click and inspect, go to console, you can see our sum is 11. And the opponent's sum is 23. So here we have a pretty fair chance to win unless the dealer has an ace underneath. So yeah, let's start adding the functions for the hit and stay button. So here I'm going to do document.getElement by ID, hit, and we're going to do .add event listener. It's going to listen for a click and call a function that we're going to name hit. Okay? So over here I'm going to do function hit. So the first thing we're going to check to see is if the player can hit or not. So if not hit, or what did I call the variable? Let's see. Can hit, this one. Okay. So if not can hit, then I'm going to return. Otherwise, we're going to give the player, which is you, we're going to give you a card. So let's copy and paste this and place it over here. So we created a new card image, which is an image tag, and we're going to get a new card from the deck, assign the source of the image to that new card, and then we're going to increment your sum and increment your ace count. And then we're going to append that card to your cards div. Alright, so now if I refresh, you can see I have 2 aces here. I can hit, and you can see it keeps adding a card. And you might notice that by now I'm already past 21. And in a real game of blackjack, you would not be allowed to draw this many number of cards because your limit is 21, right? So we're going to create a new function. And over here, I'm going to call a function called reduce ace. And I'm going to pass in your sum and your ace count. And we're going to check to see if it's greater than 21. If so, I'm going to set can hit to false. So you might be wondering what this function will do. So this reduce ace function is going to check your sum, and it's also going to take into consideration your ace count. So let's say you draw an ace, and then you get a jack and a king. Then your sum would be 11 plus 10 plus 10, right? Because that's how we defined it here. But it's going to take into consideration and say, wait a minute, I can take out one of the aces and make it a 1 instead of an 11. So it's going to be 1 plus 10 plus 10. And then here I can draw another card. But technically you shouldn't, right? Because you have 21 here. But if you had like 8, then you would have 1 plus 10 plus 8. Then you might want to draw another card in hopes of getting 21. So I'm going to define a reduce ace function here. And this will be taking in a player sum and a player ace count. So within here, I'm going to do a while loop. Basically, if player sum is greater than 21 and player ace count is greater than 0, that means we can reduce the ace from 11 to 1. So I'm going to do player sum minus equal to 10 and player ace count minus equal to 1. And then I'm going to return the player sum. So it's going to try to reduce the total sum if you have any aces. So it's going to change the 11 to a 1 as many times as possible until you hit below 21 or until you run out of aces. So if you run out of aces and you're still greater than 21, then you won't be able to draw. Alright, so if I refresh, you can see I have 2 and an ace. So in total we have 13. I can hit again, that's 20. If I hit again, that is going to exceed 21. So the sum of this is 2 plus 11, which is 13, plus 7 is 20, plus 5, that's 25. So that's when we do the reduce ace, and we subtract 10 because we have an ace. So technically we have 15. And then I can hit again, and then you can see here, we definitely exceeded 21, and this ace can only save us one time. So it'll be 2 plus 1, that's 3, plus 7, that's 10, and then plus 5 and plus 10, that is 25. So we lose this one. Okay? So now that we are able to hit, we need to implement one more function, and that is stay. Alright, so here I'm going to do document.getElementById, stay, add event listener. It's going to listen for a click. Oops. Click. And it's going to call a function called stay, which we will define. So over here, I'm going to do function stay. Scroll down a bit. Okay. So within here, I'm going to total up the sums. So dealer sum is going to be reduce ace of dealer sum and dealer ace count. And then your sum is going to be reduce ace, your sum, and your ace count. So at the very end, when you click the stay button, we're going to total up the number of cards, which we've already been doing, but we're going to call reduce ace to take into consideration, again, over here, where ace could be either 11 or 1. So we want both the dealer and the player to try to stay in the game if possible. And then after you click that stay button, we're going to change can hit to false because we don't want the user to draw cards after they decided, hey, I'm going to stay with this hand. And then I'm going to do document.getElementById hidden, and I'm going to review the hidden card. So I'm going to do hidden.source. It's going to be /cards/ plus hidden, which is the variable we created earlier to save the first card for the dealer. And then we're going to do plus.png. And then now we just need to display the message. So let message equal to empty. And we're going to go through a series of win conditions. So first, if your sum is greater than 21, you automatically lose. So it doesn't matter what the dealer has. If you're the one with the sum greater than 21, even if the dealer has greater than 21, you will be the one to lose. So message is going to be you lose. Else, in that case, if we hit this else case, that means your sum is not greater than 21. We're going to check to see if the dealer sum is greater than 21. If that is the case, then we're going to set the message to you win. And then here, when we get to this point, we can say both you and the dealer have a sum of less than or equal to 21. So we're going to do a check of both your sum and the dealer sum. So if both you and the dealer have the same sum, then there's a tie. So we're going to say tie. Else if your sum is greater than dealer sum, then the message is going to be you win. Else if your sum is less than dealer sum, then the message is you lose. Okay, so these are our winning conditions. And then finally, I'm going to do document.getElement by ID. So in our paragraph tag called results with this ID, I'm going to do .innerText equal to message. So it's going to populate one of these messages into this paragraph tag. And then also we're going to populate the score within the spans. So over here, your sum and the dealer sum. So we know who got what. So I'm going to do document.getElement by ID dealer sum .innerText. This is going to be dealer sum. And for you, document.getElement by ID your sum .innerText. This is going to be your sum. Okay. Alright, so now if I refresh, you can see I have a sum of 13 here. If I hit, then I have a sum of 17. And I will stay, and you can see I lose. Alright, so if I refresh and I play again, I have 13 here. If I hit, then I can't hit anymore, so I have no choice but to stay. And I get 23, and the dealer has 24. And again, even though the dealer also has a bust, I lose, right? Because that is in the dealer's favor. If I refresh again, I'm going to hit, and hit, and hit, and what is this? Yeah, I can't hit anymore, then I lose, okay? And if I stay here, then I win. Alright, so we have a fully functional game of Blackjack. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and let me know down below in the comments. And please consider subscribing if you want to see more tutorials like this. Okay? And you could continue working on the game if you want. You can style the background, you can style the buttons, you can even add coins. You can also add an input for how much you want to bet. So just have an input for placing bets. And you can also have multiple players. This is all up to you. You can also change the rules of the game if you want. But yeah, that's it for this tutorial, and that is Blackjack, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.